Ah, oh, hi there. Bobbo here with another Minisode of the Retro Rewind podcast. Potential spoilers incoming. This time around, I watched a little film called The Lost Boys, and of course, I watched it on the VHS tape because that's how I roll. This movie rated R, running time of 98 minutes. Release date was July 31st, 1987. The budget for this film was about $8.5 million, and it ultimately made $32+ million. Needless to say, that's a cha-ching or a level up sound if this were the actual podcast. It was directed by Joel Schumacher before he made Batman and Robin. We don't need to discuss that movie any further. And the cast included Jason Patric in the lead, Diane Wiest, Kiefer Sutherland, Jamie Gertz, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman. That's right, 2 Coreys in this movie. Barnard Hughes, Edward Herrmann, Alex Winter. You remember Alex, of course, from Bill and Ted. He was the not Keanu Reeves guy, naturally. And several other people. Music was by Thomas Newman. And on that note, since this is a mini-sode, of course, I will give you my classic maker, tragic maker, and then final rating. The classic maker for The Lost Boys for me was, I wanted to talk about the pacing because I thought this was 98 minutes. It's a really well-paced movie. I thought it kept moving. It didn't feel like it was moving too quickly or too slowly. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the cast instead. I went through several of the names there. Jason Patric, I don't know that he's been real popular in a while, but he was a thing in the 80s and I think into the 90s. Diane Wiest is always good. Kiefer Sutherland, we know how big he became. Jamie Gertz, I really wasn't very familiar with coming in. I kind of recognized the name. She was terrific in this. Haim and Feldman. Feldman playing one of the Frog brothers. He and the other actor whose name is escaping me now, Jameson something. I thought were very good characters who were quite a bit different from basically everybody else, but they still felt like they fit in that world really well, and I dug that. And there's not a bad performance in this. I was trying to think, like, who would I say was the weakest performance, and I was actually kind of coming up with Diane Wiest, which should tell you something. If she's the weakest performance, you've got a great cast here. You've got a killer cast. I shouldn't say killer, I guess, if I'm talking about vampires, but, well, too bad. And really, the more I thought about it, she wasn't bad at all. She was still above average, and maybe her character could have had a little bit more to do. I don't know that that's even reasonable. So I'm really picking nits here with the cast. They did a really, really good job with this. So as much as I like the pacing, and I thought that was really, really good, this felt like a very slick film. My hat's off to the cast. They were fantastic in this. On the flip side, I got to give you my tragic maker for this thing, and it was paced so well that when we got to the final battle, the big battle between the humans and the vampires, some elements of that final fight I think could have been better. There's kind of there's side fights, and then there's the big fight between David, the bad vampire, and Michael, the guy who they're trying to make into a vampire. And I also like the way Kiefer Sutherland kept saying Michael. That was, anyway, apropos of absolutely nothing. That battle between David and Michael could have been longer. It's okay for what it is. I think they could have made more out of that, and I think they should have made a little bit more out of that. The side battles I thought were terrific. I really enjoyed the side matchups, but Michael and David, that's the big climax. I think you could have done a little bit more with that. Now, that's not to say that that final battle is the end of the movie. There's more after that, but I still think you could have put a little more into that climactic battle that you kind of, you're kind of waiting for by the time it hits. It ends up being like this little 2-minute thing, and it's, you got to give me more than that. You've been building these characters up so well. Give me a little bit more in the fight there. I want to give an honorable mention to a few things in the movie that I really don't understand like the last minute of the movie, the final death. What? I have. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Feel free to leave a comment. Maybe I missed something. I don't know, but the truck, and I don't. Whatever. Anyway, all of that said, even with a couple things here or there that I did not quite grasp, and again, maybe I just missed something, but The Lost Boys, ultimately, final rating between classic, nostalgic, and tragic. I have to give The Lost Boys a classic rating. I really enjoyed this. I'm not. The horror genre is not really my thing. It's listed, I think, as a horror comedy on IMDb, which I guess it kind of is. It definitely has its comedic elements. Horror's not really my genre. Vampires are not really my thing. And yet, I really like this movie. I will definitely watch this one again at some point. So, again, my hat's off to everybody who made it. I was kind of not sure if I was going to look at this as one of those movies that was kind of great in its time, but it's sort of aged out, and now it's just, if you wanted to watch a late 80s movie, you can go ahead and do that. Like, no, it's better than that. It's still worth watching. It's still something that's probably worth watching on cable if it comes up there, if anybody still has cable. On that note, time for the trivial question. If you could add a vampire to any movie, what movie would it be? And I'm going to give you a little bit of flexibility here. You don't just have to add a vampire. You can change a character into a vampire. I'll give you one that I personally would like to see. And again, I'm not a vampire guy, but ever since I heard that there was some thought that Tommy Wiseau's character in The Room was going to turn out to be a vampire, I really want him to be a vampire. That movie makes so much more sense if he's a vampire. But nonetheless, that's what I'd like to see. How about you? Leave a comment. Let us know. I'd be interested to hear your opinions on that. On that note, thank you for watching this mini-sode of the Retro Rewind podcast. Sorry, I had to do the hand motion there. If you like the review, like it, follow us, star this, do a thumbs up thingy that you click on. Whatever. I don't know how that works. And of course, check out the Retro Rewind podcast with Francisco and Paul. Francisco, you're welcome. You don't have to review this now. I would, though. It's still a good movie.